Connecting to your intuition is so, so important. All of us are different. We all have different paths to the top of the mountain. And when we're able to listen to our intuition, we can make that path so much more enjoyable and so much more efficient. Intuition is a pretty known concept, so I won't go really into depth into what it is, because I think we all understand what intuition is, that gut feeling, that inner knowing. How I describe it is we can know things or we can know things. And that's what our intuition is. But how do we hear it? That's what's so confusing. And it's probably one of the most common questions I get of how do I know if that's my intuition or it's not something else? So this video is all about helping you define maybe one of 4 ways that your intuition talks so that you can kind of trust it a little bit more, as well as kind of going into the process of hearing it or seeing how it communicates with you so that you can really connect with it more. Instead of going through the quicksand and the alligators, that will still get us to the top of the mountain. So there's no judgment if you decide to take that path, right? But personally, I would much rather do things the easy way. I want to take the path with the meadow and the unicorns and the rainbows. So if you're like me, then I would highly suggest that you spend some time and energy understanding how your intuition communicates with you so that you can really listen to it a lot more and feel a lot more confident in the decisions that you make. My name is Jennifer Van Wyk, and I'm a psychotherapist, an aid worker, and somebody that has a thing in their throat, and a best-selling author. And I hope this video really helps you to understand a little bit more about intuition so that you can connect to it more easily. So first, there are 4 different ways that your intuition can communicate with you. And normally when you're just kind of starting off, your intuition will use one of those 4 ways, and it might be different for each person. Neither of those 4 ways are better or worse. They're just how you operate. What I've found is the more and more you listen to your intuition and you get confident connecting with it, your intuition might speak in actually more and more of those ways. So for example, the first way is a knowing sense. This is the most annoying way your intuition works because you can't really describe. It's hard to prove to others that this was true for you, right? So a knowing it's that gut feeling. It's often what we talk about of, you just don't know why, but you just know that you have to do this thing, or you don't know why, but you just know that you don't have to do this thing, right? And yeah, it's just this deep sense of knowing. That's all I can do. That's the best way I can describe it. Let me know if you can describe it better. Put it in the comments. And that was actually how my intuition spoke to me the most often. I'm actually quite lucky because my intuition yells at me. And once you know something, it's really hard to actually go against it because it's like, it just naturally flows for me. If I know I have to do something, I've actually had my life fall apart completely around me because I knew I had to do this one thing and nobody wanted me to do it. And so it was super horrible, really. But actually there was still no choice. I still had to go ahead. So hopefully it's not as dramatic for you, but knowing, that is one way your intuition can talk to you. Another common way that your intuition can talk to you is through images. This might look like just a picture that comes into your mind, maybe while you're doing something. It could be through dreams. That's what a lot of people can talk about. Different dreams are often images, right, that happen and mean something. It could even be like always coming across a certain animal or a certain sign or the 1111, whatever it is that you're kind of into or really resonates with you. That is a very common way that maybe your intuition talks to you the most. Okay. The third way is sounds. So I've heard like a bell just ding. I was reading a book and then I had a thought and there was this bell and then I just knew, okay, this is really important. I have to listen to what that thought was. Or maybe it's a song lyric that comes on the radio and it just really speaks to you. Or maybe it's something that somebody says to you. It really strikes a chord and not in a really emotional way, which actually is a really good point that I want to highlight. Intuition is not trying to convince you of anything. It's not really emotional. It just is. So, yeah, if someone says something to you and you're getting emotionally triggered, that is not intuition. That is a wound, right? Intuition is it rings true for you and there's just a sense of truth, but it's not pushy and it's not trying to convince you and it's not opinionated. It just is. And that's kind of what can make intuition hard for people to understand or to believe, because it's not trying to convince you to do anything. It's just a truth. When it rains, you get wet, right? That's not the universe hating you or you're stupid or the world is mean and trying to get revenge. It just is, right? Okay. Fourth way that intuition can commonly talk to you is feeling. And this is another actually all of them are very strong for me, but this was kind of the second biggest, strongest way that intuition spoke to me. And that's like you feel something in your body. So actually when I work with clients, if they give me permission, I can tune into them and then feel what different emotions they're feeling and where they're holding it in their body without them having to say anything, for example. Feeling it can be a physical sensation. So it can be like it feels hot or it feels prickly or it feels cold, or it could even be an emotional sensation of it feels panicky or it feels like this is really important, or you might have that. You can just feel what's going on with other people kind of thing. If you are an empath, then you'll often pick up on other people's emotions. So that's intuition about how they're feeling. But again, that's separate from the emotion that they're having themselves. It's a knowing about how someone's feeling, not the fact that you are panicky, for example. You just know that there is panic there. And then that's a good idea or a good indicator that you need to do something. So feeling, again, it can be emotions or just like physical sensations. Maybe something goes numb, something like that, right? So I hope that's clear for you. There's a couple more things I do that's really important to know about intuition. And that is actually, this was something that one of my teachers, Jeffrey Allen, brought up. And that's the idea that intuition is not a question. When you get a thought of, oh, maybe I should bring my umbrella, it's not, should I bring my umbrella, ? It's, I should bring my umbrella. It's a statement. So when you get these little thoughts, it's not oh, maybe I should do that. It's you should do that. Right? So this was really helpful for me in terms of like listening to your intuition. It's not a suggestion, it's just a statement. So your intuition, again, it's not a question. When you get these feelings or or you hear something, it's not a question, it's a statement. Okay? The other thing is don't be afraid of making mistakes. Sometimes, like, we do have different voices in our head. Often intuition is the first one and possibly the quietest one, especially if you're not used to listening to it. Why it's the first one is it's because it's the one that bubbles up. And then our belief systems or our thinking, or if you're like me, your rational, logical side will come in and twist it or justify it or do other things, and that voice is definitely not your intuition. That is your dogma or your belief system that's talking. So it's really important to know the difference between the two. Additionally, like if you're anxious or fearful, then that voice will talk, and that is not your intuition, right? That's that part of you that is anxious or fearful. So that's why there's those different voices that it's good to be aware of, because they all, just like your mom sounds different than your dad and your friends have different voices, also the different parts of you have different voices. And the more you can listen to them and understand their quality of how they communicate to you, the easier it is for you to differentiate who's speaking to you. I hope this isn't sounding too absolutely crazy, because it is kind of crazy when you think about it. But intuition, like I said, it's usually a quiet voice. It's usually the first one to speak, but it can get often drowned out by your other voices. So again, when I work with people, it's always, what's the first thing that comes to mind? That's why we use intuition, because there's no inhibitions. Another tip is that when you just wake up, but you're not quite awake, that can be a really powerful kind of time that your intuition can speak to you, or you can ask different questions. When you're still a little groggy, it means your brain isn't quite working very well. So let's take advantage of it and listen to the intuition, which can then come through a lot clearer and a lot easier. So that's a little tip that you can try and use. Lastly, and this is something that I actually, one of my teachers from the Toltec tradition, the Ryu's family, they really brought this up, and I really liked it. And it's this idea that don't be afraid to make mistakes. Maybe you listen to your rational thought instead of your intuition. That's okay. Mistakes are probably the most effective way to learn. I don't love learning from mistakes. I'd love to get it correct the first time, but if I don't, boy, that mistake will help me learn it better than not. I do have a plaque that one of my friends gave me that says, I try not to make the same mistake twice. I make it 4 or 5 times just to be sure. So again, I don't want you to have judgment of if you make this mistake more than once. It's okay. We don't need to beat ourselves up. When we beat ourselves up for making a mistake, we actually make ourselves more weak. And if you're more weak, you have less strength to make the healthiest, make the most wonderful decisions in the future. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. You're gonna get to the top of the mountain, regardless of whatever path you choose. It's just about trying to be as aware as you can, as loving as you can, so that the way to the top of the mountain, your present experience up to the top of the mountain, is joyful and wonderful and the most pleasant it could possibly be for yourself at this time. So again, if you don't listen to your intuition, or if you think one of these voices of yours is your intuition, but you find out that, oh, maybe that wasn't it, just remember, just learn from that. That will help you really get to know the different voices that are in your head and know which ones you want to really pay attention to and choose that more consciously. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you liked it or found it useful, please like and subscribe. And if you want actually more information on intuition, in my book, I have the first chapter is all about intuition because it is so important. I really don't have the answer for you. What I see my job as is helping you get the answers for you so that you know what it is that your heart needs in each moment, because those needs will change and shift. Please, again, like and subscribe, or feel free to comment down below of any questions or any experiences you've had or any tips that you have for the community. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.